Let's talk about the rinseless wash method and when you should or shouldn't do it, how to kind of gauge the type of wash you should do based on the condition of the vehicle, and why we don't really overcomplicate the wash process. So let's talk about the rinseless wash and if it's safe to do or not. Now, I'll give you two different perspectives in terms of doing it as a hobbyist and then doing it as a pro detailer where you're getting paid to do it. Now, I don't overthink the wash process at all. Like, if we do, 50 cars in 1 month, or let's say we do 50 washes, we don't overcomplicate how we're gonna wash it. And to give you my direct way we do it is like, for instance, this car is heavily swirled. There's not one spot on this paint where it's not heavily swirled, where there's not water spots, like it's in bad condition. So with this one, we are not going to take care of it the same way as if it's a corrected and coated vehicle, simply due to the fact that no matter what we do, how delicate we are, the paint's already filled with a ton of swirls and scratches, right? So on a practical level, if a customer comes to us and they want to wash, on our end, whether I rinse it, foam it, wash it, the paint is heavily swirled. Whether I go in straight with a rinseless wash in its current condition and give it a wash, it's still heavily swirled. So in this regard, especially if we're gonna do if a customer comes in just for a wash and they've already had it washed 100 times at a local car wash, at a hand wash, at a tunnel wash for $5, no matter what I do on the wash process, it's not gonna change the results of the exterior. So in this regard, I would do a rinseless wash because the condition of the paint, it doesn't call for something more intricate or more in depth because the paint's already in terrible condition in terms of the swirls. Now, on that same note, we have a customer that comes to us, we corrected and coated their vehicle, the paint is swirl free. We will implement a different wash process because we want to maintain the level of swirl free paint that they have. So in that regard, if it calls for it, we'll do more, which leads me to my second part. You want to match the level of wash to the type of condition. And when I mean type of condition, that means how dirty it is, and then how swirl free it is. So if there is just a light level, just a little bit of dust, and you have a swirl free vehicle, you can do a rinseless wash because you don't need much. Maybe you might do a very light rinse, and even that might be too much because there's so little contamination on the paint that you can just go straight into the rinseless wash if it's very, very light dust, and you're not gonna add any more swirls because it's so light. Again, maybe you pre-spray it with your rinseless, maybe you give it a quick rinse, but there's not much you have to do because it's so lightly contaminated that the little bit of light dust isn't gonna be a problem. So even if it's swirl free, you can just kind of go straight to the wash. Now, if it's swirl free, but it's heavily contaminated, you drove through a lot of rain and there's a bit of a mud kicked on and maybe it's been a while. Well, yeah, in that regard, since it's a lot dirtier, the rinseless solution won't be enough just because of how caked on it is. So in that one, you'd want to up it up to something more, whether it's a foam rinse and then, a rinseless, or a foam rinse and down and then your traditional wash method. So you want to match up the level of cleaning to the condition that it's in, because even if the vehicle is heavily swirled, but there's chunks of paint, chunks of mud everywhere, or just a heavy grime, you still wouldn't want to go with a rinseless wash solution just because it's so caked on. It simply needs more in order for it to do a proper wash. So how we look at it is for instance, on this one right here, that it's dirty, but again, the paint is so swirled. I wouldn't mind doing a rinseless wash on this one, but still being mindful of what I'm doing. So if you saw, I posted a video not too long ago called The Laziest Wash Ever. And it's essentially what I'm gonna do here, where yes, there is grime on this vehicle. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of I'm still gonna go with a rinseless wash solution, except I'm just gonna be a lot more mindful of how often I'm switching out the towel. So if I go over this section here and there's a bit more grime right here, okay, that one section, I do that one pass and I'm already gonna flip it over because yes, it is all dirty, yes, it is all heavily swirled, but at least I'm still being mindful of how I'm doing the wash process, just because you don't wanna be dragging dirt and grime everywhere, even if it is heavily swirled. And if you're a detailer trying to start your business or currently trying to grow your business, trust me, you don't really need to watch any more detailing videos because that's not gonna help you grow your business. What you need to focus on is the business side of things, of sales, marketing, operations, pricing, know your numbers. That's what's actually gonna grow your business. So if you want in-depth training on the business side of detailing, check out Detailers Growth Academy down below. That's my online training platform that has over 6 courses that covers all things business. Creating your website, optimizing your Google business profile, optimizing your website for SEO. It's knowing your numbers, improving your pricing, improving your sales process, the things that actually grow your business. If you wanna give that a look, you can click the link down below and learn more. And the next big question is always like, oh, but is it gonna swirl it? Well, to be fair, right? If you really want to be accurate with what you're saying, almost any time, whether you're foaming it and using the 4-bucket wash method with 10 wash mitts, if you're gonna make contact with your vehicle, to some degree, you are always adding some level of swirls back into the paintwork, right? Like to some degree, to some level, you are adding some layer of swirls back into the paintwork. Now the question is, what is the level or the severity of swirls that you're adding back? So obviously, if you're doing a rinseless right here on this level of dirtiness, yes, you will be adding swirls. Now, keep in mind, this is where I don't like, where detailers are like, oh, you're damaging the paint. That word I do not like and I never use around my customers. And detailers love to use that word because they want to amplify, like, oh, that's why we don't want to do the rinse because I'm going to damage the paint. It's all art, it's all aesthetics, right? It's all cosmetic. If we add a swirl right here of me doing that, oh man, I added a swirl, and people are like, you just damaged the paint. Brother, it's just cosmetic. A light polish will remove what I just did. And again, the key point to remember here is, look at the paintwork. If it's this trashed and I do one rinseless wash, am I gonna hold myself accountable for saying, oh, I added 2 swirls in there? If the customer was worried about the swirls and they didn't want the swirls in there, they would pay for paint correction. But for the last 7 years, they've ran this car twice a week through a tunnel wash. So the one time that I'm here to service the vehicle and I give it a quick rinseless wash, it's literally not changing anything. And that's why I don't use the word damage, because we're not all these swirls are not damaged. Now, clear coat failure is damage. Etching into the paint is damage. But swirls that have accumulated over years can be fixed with a polish, right? So I don't like painting it in the way to the customer. We're like, oh, my paint is damaged from the swirls, or I'm damaging it if I don't do a foam wash, or I'm damaging it if I do a rinseless and I add a swirl. Like, you're not. It's just it's not that deep to say, oh, you're damaging it. Everything we're doing here is cosmetic. Now, obviously, like if you take a pressure washer and you rip off paint, you're damaging it. If you're using a rotary and you burn paint, you're damaging it. But simply doing a rinseless wash right here and you pick up a little bit of dirt, or that just happens, and you give one little light swirl, one little light scratch, right? It's not damaging it. So if you're really, really concerned about, I don't want to add any swirls and I want to keep this the most swirl-free paint ever. Well, if that is your goal, then a touchless will be your best bet. And that just means, like, once a week, go in there, foam it down, rinse it down. You use DI water, use the proper, first get it corrected and polish and coat it. That way it has the proper protection on there. Keep it indoors and then wash it once a week, but touchless. That way you never have to actually touch it. And in that regard, you'll be a lot better for being swirl free. Because remember, it's not just the wash process, but then it's also the drying process. So even in the drying process, you don't want to use a drying towel. You would want to use a blower like we had back there with the big boy blower, because you don't want to touch the vehicle at all to keep it swirl free. Aside from that, even if you are using foam, the 3-bucket wash method with 7 wash mitts, with a very high quality premium drying towel, to some degree you are adding some level of swirls back into the paintwork. Again, that's going to be mitigated if you're doing everything right, but nonetheless, like I don't like saying like to some degree, if you're ever going to touch the paint and do this, some bit, some way, somehow, to some fraction, you are going to add some swirls back into the paintwork. Now, obviously, if you are careless and using old towel, old wash method, and you're working on a dirty vehicle, yeah, you'll add a lot more than if you're being a lot more careful. But that's why you want to kind of see what it is exactly you want to do. And even more so is if a car comes to us in this condition, and they are getting some level of polishing done to their paint, whether it's a one-step, a two-step, or a multi-step, we really aren't gonna overthink the wash process, because no matter what we do, even if it's a bit dirtier than this, and we still do a rinseless wash method, and we still do that, and we still add swirls into the paintwork, literally, depending on the level of polishing that we're doing, 70, 80, 90% of those swirls are gonna come right out. So that's why we never overthink the wash process. If it's corrected and coated, we're gonna do more of a wash, right? And I say more of a wash because it doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna rinse it down, foam it down, rinse it down, 2-bucket wash method. It might just be rinsing it down and then a rinseless, or it might just mean a traditional wash. So I'm not gonna say this is what we do on this, on this ceramic coated vehicle. But if it's swirl free, we'll typically do more to preserve the swirl freeness. If it's on the dirtier scale, then we'll do less, because no matter what we do, whether it's a 14-bucket wash method with 9 wash mitts, and we're using pH neutral soap with the most quality wash mitts, wash towels, and drying towels with an air blower, even if we do all that, the paint will still be heavily swirled after we're done. And again, if we're doing this as a business, you just can't do the most on every single vehicle unless they're paying for it. And I mean, I can also talk about doing rinseless to be more efficient and how you match it up and do this, but I'll save that for another video. Again, this is like a 10-minute long video. It's like I'm talking all these things, but realistically, we never question the wash process. We don't overthink the wash process. And because we're doing this as a business, it's a lot more stringent in terms of when we do something and when we don't, because we have to work off of what the customer is paying for and what we told them we deliver. And so it's a lot more straightforward of what we need to do. If it's for your personal car, you can debate about everything that you want. You can be on the forums, watch videos, have a grand old time out there, because it's just for your own, enjoyment of washing a car. So do whatever you want to do because it's your own personal vehicle. Let me know if you have any specific questions about the rinseless or what else you want me to cover. I will look at the comments and make other videos in the future. I'll talk to you guys on the next one.